Let's quickly dive into the first lesson, adjusting and simplifying data structure. When you encounter this scenario, don't rush into thinking about which functions to use. First, let's imagine how we would want the data structure to look in order to make the analysis easier. What would make the data structure most convenient or comfortable for me to work with? Once you have a clear vision of the desired result, then we can work backward and figure out which functions we need to use to achieve this. Functions are just tools, so it's important to have a clear idea of the result before you start. Now, let's get back to the course and introduce some commonly used functions in adjusting and simplifying data structures. The first part is adjusting the data structure. Common tasks include splitting rows and columns, and row-column transformations. Let's look at this exam result scenario. We can see that the exam scores are divided into subjects like Chinese, Math, and English, but they are stored in one single field, which obviously doesn't meet my analytical needs. At this point, I might not have a very clear idea of how I want to restructure the data, but I do know that at least Chinese, Math, and English need to be separated. To handle this, we can use the split field function and choose to split it by rows. The process requires two settings. First, select the field to split. You need to tell me which field to split. Second, choose a delimiter for splitting. You can split by spaces, semicolons, or other characters like slashes. After setting the delimiter to space, the result would split Chinese 100, Math 80, and so on into separate rows. However, at this point, you may notice that it's still not ideal for my analysis. The most obvious issue is that the Chinese score of 100 is combined with text, which doesn't make sense. So, we can use the split field function again. This way, we can separate one field into two fields. The second difference is that after splitting, you can choose which columns you want to keep. For example, in this scenario, we definitely need both the subject and the score fields, so we can choose to keep both. At this point, the data structure is much better. Some of you might still think, it's still not as clear as I want it to be. In the past, when teachers posted the grade list on the classroom wall, each row would show one student with their subject scores, not multiple rows for each student. Exactly. Now, you should have a clear idea of the data structure you want. You likely want it to look like this. At this point, we can use the row-column transformation function to handle this. Specifically, we're going to convert rows into columns. For example, the Chinese 100 that was written in one row can be transformed into a vertical list, Chinese subject with the corresponding score of 100. To achieve this, we need to do two things. First, select the field to transform. This will become your new column header, subjects like Chinese, Math, English. Second, set the new column values. These are the scores for each subject. After dragging the score field to the new column value and selecting it, the final result will look just as shown in the example. This is a row-to-column transformation.